Alan Ritchson is back. Jack Reacher himself goes full Team America in this new Netflix film War Machine, Man versus Robot from Outer Space. What could possibly go wrong? A film that is very much Predator meets Lone Survivor meets War of the Worlds. Let's get into it. So the film starts off in Afghanistan during the war, and Alan Ritchson's character is en route to help a convoy that has broken down. The convoy run by his brother, and they are working together to try and get them back out on the road and continue with their mission. But they are ambushed by the enemy and all get killed and destroyed except for Alan Ritchson. And it has to deal with the trauma of being the only one that survived the ambush. And as a promise to his brother, he decides to go and join the Army Ranger Battalion and do the most grueling 8-12 weeks of training that they have to go through. And he's got a few demons that he's wrestling with in terms of like trauma and injuries, not both mental and physically. He sort of becomes like a lone wolf whilst he's recruit training for the Ranger Battalion. He doesn't go along with what everyone else is doing. He's actually the one that is setting the pace. He's the one that is winning every sort of section that they do in the training and is way ahead of everyone else and is basically trying to get everyone up to his level. He is sort of like the most winning candidate and has like a strong will to succeed and do whatever it takes to get through this training in memory of his brother. And he doesn't talk to any of the other candidates. He doesn't talk to any of the superior officers. And as the weeks go by, his number is 81 in the training camp. So nobody has their names. Their names have been wiped of existence and they are referred to by numbers. And Alan Ritchson is referred to as 81. And as the weeks go by, his number doesn't get called and he stays. And he's like, each time quite surprised that he stays, but he shouldn't be because he's the one that's ahead of everyone else. And so he actually gets to the final stage of training and reluctantly has been tasked with becoming the leader of this platoon. And he just literally just wants to get through and, you know, doesn't want to lead or anything like that and doesn't want to just go underneath the radar and just go through his training and become a ranger. But no, the commanders are like, if you want to be a part of this team, if you want to stay on, you have to lead. You can't just go alone on your own. He actually has a meeting before this final event where the superior officers, the superior training people are like, if you sign this paper, we can just let you go and you'll be fine. And they kept sort of going at him and trying to break him down, but he says, no, if you don't mind, I'm going to carry on. I don't care what you say. He goes against their recommendations. And so on this occasion, he's like, right, okay, fine. I'll be the lead squad leader of this final mission that he has to do. And so he actually galvanizes in the end the recruits and becomes like a strong leader for them and does whatever it takes to complete the final mission. But whilst they're on this mission, they encounter a rather odd looking sort of structure, an odd building. And like, is that our target? Is that our mission? Do we have to go here? And they find out as time goes on, like their compasses start going out of control and they have to try and work together to try and figure out whether or not this is the actual training mission or maybe this is something else. Their initial thought is like, right, okay, let's just blow it up. So they don't actually have live ammunition with them. They've just got blanks as this is just a final training mission. But what they do have is explosives. And so they attach the explosives onto this weird sort of structure. They go and take cover. They explode the ordnance and nothing happens to the structure, nothing at all. Until all of a sudden they wake something in this structure. It turns into an alien robot with high-powered machinery, weaponry, and everything under the sun. And then it becomes a battle of survival against this alien entity that is after them. And it's just one robot to start with, and they have to work together to try and get out of this situation, report back to their superiors, and be like, right, there's something here. We need to take it out. We need help. Help us. But communications are out. Everything around them is blocked when they come into contact with this alien robot. They have to try and survive. So you gotta watch this film with a little bit of an open mind. You gotta watch this film for what it is. It is a science fiction action blockbuster film, but that's about it. And there's a lot of really good sort of action sequences in here, especially like a chase scene between like an LAV, which is like a light armored vehicle that they travel in towards the end, and they're being chased by this relentless robot that will stop at nothing to try and kill them. But they're also just as relentless in their survival, which is kind of cool. They literally work together towards the end and become like a cohesive unit. Whereas Alan Ritchson's character, like he becomes like this reluctant hero who sort of comes in just wanting to breeze through and get through this final phase, but actually becomes one of their greatest strengths and one of their greatest leaders that they need to help get out of this situation. What I do find is that there are aspects of the robot that I felt that were sort of not what you would call intimidating whatsoever. It definitely draws upon the Predator idea of relentlessness and resourcefulness, but that's about it. Like, there's nothing scary about this thing, like the robots from War of the Worlds or Predator itself. I mean, it does have like some cool gadgets and some pretty cool like weaponry that it comes with. Like, it has a detection system that is like this beam of light that comes out of it and interacts with like the world around it, so it can track where everything's going. But that's about as far as it goes. It becomes almost comical in a way because it's so OP, it's so overly powered. Like, they throw everything at this thing and nothing happens. And you're like, come on, give it some sort of weakness. And it just becomes like a bit tiresome after a while, them just constantly battering it with nothing and nothing's working. What I do like about the film is it has a pretty decent message of doing what's necessary to get the job done, survival, teamwork, strategy. It does revolve around like key themes, which I think everyone could get behind. And Alan Ritchson, playing the traumatized soldier and reluctant leader, does a really good job. Like, he has such presence, fills the screen quite literally and figuratively. Like, he's got the stature and the physique to carry this kind of a role, which he's really good at. And his voice, when he does speak, he has very few lines to start with because he's dealing with the trauma and the loss of his brother, and he just wants to be a bit of a recluse. And as the film goes on, he gets more and more out of his shell and sort of relishes in the high stakes survival of the film, and that's what's really cool. But ultimately, I do feel like the story does fall a little bit flat, and it becomes like after the intimacy of like just the platoon and the one robot, it just becomes like this worldwide event that's taking place, and you just sort of get lost in it, and you're like, oh, really? Okay, here we go, another alien invasion story that we've seen about 1,000,000 times, and here we go. What I would say is that, like I say, it does get very Team America for a lot of it. It's like, oh, look at us, look at our big army, look at all these weapons and things that we've got. We can take over the world and we can win every single battle and we're the best, and very gung-ho. And the last 15 minutes is very much a Army Ranger sort of recruitment ad, and it's going to get a lot of people sort of pumped and get a lot of people sort of feeling, it gets you very sort of patriotic and very energized and adrenaline fueled emotions going on when you're watching it, and you're like, yes, let's go. But I mean, otherwise, like, it's not a bad film. You're not really watching it for the storyline. You're watching it for the big action sort of science fiction thriller for what it is, and you can't go wrong. And you can watch it at home, and you can just chill out and have a good time and watch a bit of like mindless fun. And what's wrong with that? It's not going to win any awards. It's not going to do any sort of major dents, but it's a good time. And that's all you can ask for sometimes. So yeah, let me know what you think, what your sort of cross genre films are. You know, and like I said, this is very much like Predator meets Lone Survivor meets War of the Worlds, and it does that in spades. And so let me know what your favourite sort of cross genre war type film is in the comments, and away we go. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.